today we got to play Encyclopedia. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are amazing, and that's what we do here at Legends of Nirvana. Now, Randy, can you tell us more about Encyclopedia?
Yes, Encyclopedia is a 2022 release. It currently has a Board Game Geek rating of 4,065 and a rank of 7.7.
And it just came out.
It literally just, the Kickstarter came in yesterday or the day before yesterday. And it's now already released at least in some of the stores, but it's coming. 1 to 4 player game, 60 to 120 minutes, age 14 and up, which probably, given all the strategy in this and iconography, it's probably 14 and up is probably good. Designed by Eric Dubos, which is the same designer as Museum. Then art was by Joël Drans, Jeremy Prugno, and Ronan Toulhout. Published by Holy Grail Games. It was, when we ordered this is the all-in, well, it's not Kickstarter, it was GameFound. But it was the all-in set. It was 79 euros for everything, with then 14 euro shipping. The base game is being released MSRP of $59.99. It's currently listed as a pre-order on Card House for $44.95, but Miniature Market shows it as in stock for $41.99. So they've got the cheapest price currently. Now, the difference between the base game and the Kickstarter, you'll see when we go through quality, there's a lot of upgrades to components, but also there's a built-in expansion already that comes out, the Magna Itinera. I'm assuming this will be sold separately later, but it was included as part of the bundle if you bought it off the GameFound.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about quality of components. So again, we did get the Kickstarter edition.
Well, the GameFound.
Yeah, well, the share or crowdfunding. There it is. All right, so we do have metal coins, both 1s and 5s, and I mean they're fine. You do have these thick cardboard.
No, these are wood.
They are wood.
Yeah, these are all wooden tokens to replace. There's a bunch of sheets of cardboard in the box that you just end up not using. There's the only pieces that are cardboard that you need are the tokens that are for the round markers that give you what benefits you get, and then the little tokens that give you 5 cubes if you need them to replace your individual cubes.
Because you run out of them.
But that's it.
Yeah, so, and then card quality, they did include sleeves in the Kickstarter version. There is no linen finish, but again, you're sleeving the cards. You do shuffle through them quite a bit, so it makes sense that they did that choice.
A little short on the sleeves.
Yeah, they didn't give enough sleeves for the full expansion, so we got to find some sleeves that'll fit the large cards.
Yeah, like 8 cards.
Because they're not standard size. We got to figure out what size they are.
Yeah, and then now your player cubes are pretty generic wooden squares. Those are pretty standard. Overall, I think I would rate this probably at an 8. There's nothing truly breathtaking, but it's all good quality.
You do get this nice bag that has this print on it with the different animals on it, which is, it's got a lot of detail on it, which is nice.
So what would you score it?
I'm probably going to go ahead and say an 8 as well. I think the wood is nice, especially I really like the first player token. It's really nice. But in general, there's nothing outstanding as far as the component quality. The cards don't have linen finishes. It's not. There's nothing outstanding about the coins or meh.
They're okay. but they're metal coins.
Okay. They're metal, but they're...
And that's why we give it an 8.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Overall good. Not excellent, but good quality. One of the issues that I spotted was, I guess there's really 2 that I spotted. One is the dowels that they cut these wooden pieces from are not all of a consistent diameter. So there's as much as a millimeter difference in diameter from one color to another. Not a big deal. But nevertheless, still, when you stack them up, they're obviously not the same. And then I had a little bit of a problem with the initial part of our run-through with the colors on the dice. They didn't match perfectly, and it might have been a function of light, and it might have been a function of my eyes as well. But I had a hard time distinguishing the blue from the purple on the board.
Yeah, and I will say, even within the blue for the player markers for the scoring is different than the blue for the wood and the blue from the die. So there's not a consistency between the colors.
That's 4 different blues right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Heather? What's your score?
I like the 8 number y'all are throwing out.
All right, so now let's talk about the theme. So the theme is that you are trying to create an encyclopedia, hence the name, and you're trying to learn about different animals and different things like that. And to do that, you are going to pick a species or a couple of species, and then you're going to go to the nature or the origin of that species, and you're going to investigate them and learn about them, and then proceed them to actually publish your findings. So overall, I thought that I liked the theme. All the animal cards, the artwork, guys, the artwork was top notch.
Very good.
Like, you want to talk about a standing, like all the different animals and things like this. It was beauty. It was beautiful, breathtaking.
It's not just the main art in the background.
Yeah, in the
on all
background,
cards.
it's amazing.
It's amazing because they have illustrations that are just sketches in the background that are showing the animal like fighting their predator.
Yeah, like
their
on the
natural.
mongoose card, it showed a mongoose fighting a cobra in the background in the sketch. So
Yeah, and then they've got the countries of origin of all the animals, the Latin root name. All of it is it's educational and it is beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very thematic, right? Like, for example, you pick what you're going to study, then you go study it, and then you publish about it, right? And then you talk about the different species around that certain type of thing. I thought it was spot on. I thought it was really great. The artwork, with the artwork alone, this is at least a 9 for me. But I think about the one we just played where we gave it a 10 on theme. I don't think that the gameplay is as strong as maybe some of the other 10s that we've seen. This artwork's really fantastic. So I'm at a 9. What about you guys?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the one thing that I would point out about the cards is that they actually used what I assume on some of these were names of real people. I guess it would have been nice. I don't know if it's linked somewhere. You can find out and look about the real people. But one thing about the animal cards, they have the Latin name, the scientific, genus and species. I think it would have been helpful if they had put in parentheses the common name.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of these are like, is that what? You kind of tell close to what it is, but not exactly.
Well, I'm not sure.
That
One
would be
thing
nice.
is if these are being discovered, they may not have had a common name, and that's why they may not have done that for the theme for the time period. But yeah, I think from an educational perspective, it would have been nice to have that. But for the most part, you can kind of tell. Certainly from a global species, you can tell it's a bat or it's a turtle or it's a.
Well, but I mean, there was there was a lot of turtles. The first game we played, I collected all the turtles, but I didn't know which turtles they were. I just knew that they were the cool ones because all turtles are cool, So it would have been nice to, because when you go to think about your zoo and things like that, you hear what the box turtle is and you hear what, So that would have been nice as far as thematically going.
I don't think these are the proper Latin names for them. I think there may be some jokes in here that we didn't catch because we don't speak enough or don't know enough Latin. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I was just wishing that I knew more Latin. So
I mean, it's easy enough to look it up online.
Yeah, and we didn't have time for that. But yeah. I feel like there were some jokes that we missed. I feel like we lost.
Honestly can't imagine this because it seems like they're trying to make it an educational game. I can't imagine they're putting in humor, jokes in there.
That's not to say that the scientists who originally discovered it
didn't do that when they named it.
Llama. Was it Llama Gama or something? Llama Glama? That's
yeah.
Anyway, I feel like we missed out on something and it wasn't the game's fault, it was ours. I loved the artwork. What you guys keep calling sketches in the background, I think are actually called studies. Like the quickie notes when someone is studying this kind of stuff.
True.
But yeah, I love it. I give it a 9.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with the 9. I think it is pretty amazing with the art. I like the board art. I think it's a beautiful board. It is an oversized board. It takes up a ton of space. You're going to need a big table
But
for
you
this.
need that
How do you
space.
need it?
Yeah, you need it. I mean, it does require it. You need a lot of room to place cards, especially if you're going to keep them like Heather did until the end of the game before you play any of them. So you're going to need a space to keep all your cards that are currently active in play, and it does take up a lot of space. So you will need a big table for this. I will definitely say this game is on probably the medium. Not heavy, but probably solid medium level game. There's a lot of little rules. When we talk about the rule book, we'll get to that. but there's a lot of things that can easily be missed or overlooked.
Did get missed or overlooked.
We corrected it. So all in all, yeah, I think a 9 is a fair score for theme.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. So now let's actually talk about the rule book.
All right.
So I will say, they read it for quite some time.
Yeah. Well, the rule book is pretty intimidating because it's a 28-page rule book.
Well,
it does have a nice cover.
It took y'all forever.
Yeah. Well, it's
a lot.
There's a lot to this game.
There is.
So it's got a nice look to it. It has nice content. It doesn't have the nice feel of the ones we've been getting lately, where it feels like the upgraded paper. But this is a slick feel. It's not your standard. It's a thicker book than what you normally see. The paper quality is better, but it isn't the nice linen finished book like we've been seeing. It has a nice setup area, showing you how to set the game up. Was no confusion in the setup. It just took us a while. Then the gameplay, this is where things got a little more complex, particularly with the scoring when you go to publish. That's where all the confusion really is. There's a lot going on at that point, and it's easy to miss a little thing in there. So they do have nice examples if you read through them and follow along, but they're broken up. So they break it up into chunks to teach you it, and I think that was the right approach. Because there's several steps in the scoring, but once you read it, especially with us, we have to read it and then teach it again. And when we do that, it's kind of where things fell out of the. I can't say it's the book's fault because it's kind of the nature of how we have to do things. Because Alan and I were kind of following along, but then we had to teach Miranda and Heather how to play. And at that point, there's little things we forgot that we read. So all in all, I don't think it's a bad rule book. It's just there's so many rules you have to remember, and there's little things that are not. Now I will say I did not like the way they documented some of the stuff as far as particularly around the scoring of this. They put it on the cheat sheet but they didn't really have a lot of. The cheat sheet was embedded where it fit into your board, which was kind of cool, but it didn't it's just a very, very basic.
No, okay.
And I'd like to point out, I was the one who said, well, what does this mean?
Yeah.
What does this mean? It wasn't like...
Well, that's where we learned we forgot a couple minor things. I mean, they were easy for us to go back and correct for the most part. Cheat sheets just, I think, were not adequate for, they gave you the basic scoring, but it would be nice to have some kind of information. I think it's because they were trying to make it such that you didn't have any kind of language barrier. But, it really, the iconography on that was not intuitive enough.
Well, and honestly, I feel like what would have been really helpful is a step-by-step scoring for this. Like, step 1, pay the die. The die is equal to whatever. And you see that in a lot of games, and they did not do that. And I think
they do have a cheat sheet on the back of the rule book, the gaming aid. But you already have a real estate hog paid game, and this is even a big rule book that's going to take up more real estate, and it doesn't really step you through the publication. It just kind of reference to the pages and kind of a high level telling you what happens. Yeah, but this is really where the complexity of the game is that scoring there. So I'm going to go ahead and give this, I think, a 7.5. Mainly, I think the big improvement would have been having this be a little more intuitive.
Yeah.
Because I'm glad they did it. It's neat that it fits into your board. It's the cosmetics they focused on, but the functionality I think it was lacking.
Yeah, I think they needed something specifically due to overpublishing. All right, so now let's actually talk about the gameplay. So this is a dice drafting game. So basically, we put the dice in a bag. You draw 4 out. You roll them, and you put them on here. So, oh look, you got 4. Perfect. Okay, 3. Here's another one. All right. So then you, as the owner of the dice, get to choose where you want to put them. Now, this is very, very relevant because if someone steals your dice, which they can do, depending on the placement is what you get if they steal it. So, for example, this 5, they get 3 victory points. You get 3 victory points. For example, this one you get 2 favor. This one you get 2 coins. This one you get nothing. So you want your least valuable die over on that.
It's a crappy roll.
Yeah. That is a really crappy roll.
I think that's the worst roll we've had in the entire game.
Nope. I had 3 1s and a 4 one time. It was miserable.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. Anyway, so kind of just understanding that. So then everyone drafts their dice, they roll them, they place them on their boards. And then you will flip over the round marker. It will give a special benefit, and you'll trigger that at that point. So then what you do is then you determine the dice placement. So I can either take from my board or take from somebody else. So I'm going to pretend this 2 was on someone else's board. And I've got a few things that I can do with it. So the first thing I can do, I can go up here, right, and I can claim a scroll card. So it is purple. If I were to take a purple card, and I'll know that from the color up here, I will also get a 2 pip token. All right, so if I were to do that, I get the 2 pip token, which allows me to either change the color of a die or add 2 to the pip count, which will be useful in some other actions. And then I get to take that card. Now, some of these cards, they have instant actions. Some of them are continuous special abilities, and some are end-of-game scoring. And you'll notate which ones those are by this little symbol up here in the corner. All right, so the instance will have a lightning bolt. The infinity signal has a continuous, if you could, do that action, you get the thing. And then the bell is end-of-game scoring. Now, you could also, so instead of maybe going here, I can go to the bank. Now, I could take first player at the bank and get 5 coins. Or if first player's already taken, I could just get 5 points for that. We actually did that, or at least I did a couple of times throughout the game. Normally when you do a money action, it's not, in a lot of games it's almost like a pass. I don't think that was. I think that sometimes you legitimately needed the 5 points.
The next action you can do is you can go to the embassy. If you go to the embassy and you play a die, you will get these 2 pip tokens that will let you either increase the value by 2 pips, or you can use them to change the color of the die if the color is relevant. The next thing you can do is you can use it to go get an animal. Now, in this case, this would normally be filled with enough based on number of players. You would fill it up to the full 8 for 4 player. But you can go here and you can claim an animal that matches the same color as the card that you play. Additionally, you will get stars, which are reputation, and on your board you have a reputation track. As you move down this board, you will periodically uncover or cover up different icons on there that will give you a perk. Like this first one gives you another one of these 2 pip tokens. The second one will let you take a free one of the experts. The third one will give you 3 coins. The fourth one will let you take a free bonus animal. And the fifth one will give you one of these red tokens, which are similar to the 2 pip tokens, but they give you 5, they count as 5 pips, or you can trade them for 5 coin, which also is 5 pips.
Or an extra turn.
Yeah, you can take an extra turn with them. At the end of the round, you just get 1 die action, but you can only use it for 1 per round. So that's the different things you can do with the animals. Then after you've got an animal that you want to research, you go on an expedition. Now the expeditions you have to choose based upon the color of the die you pick. You could go on an expedition to that country, or that continent, I should say, and you place on whichever, there's 4 different squares there. The lowest one gives you no reputation, but gives you 3 pips towards your count that you add to your pip count. The highest one gives you 3 reputation, but no pips. But you can choose any combination thereof of those 4 spaces to place your die on, as long as it's not occupied. Then you can pay coins, or these 2 pip tokens, or the 5 pip ones, to increase your pip count, and you use that to assign cubes to your animals that you're studying. They have to be in the continent, as far as their origin continent, for you to study them. So you can allocate the resources however you want, but there's up to 4 different cube spaces on there. They have circles, different shapes on them to denote which the cost is on them. And you have a level 1 that's a circle, level 2 that's a square, a level 3 is a pentagon, and a level 4, is interestingly a septagon. You don't see 7-sided shapes very often, so it was interesting to see that. But they have costs ranging from 2 to 10 pips. So you have to build up a lot of pip count when you go to these actions to try to do that. So having a lot of coins, a lot of tokens is very helpful when you're going to take that action. But the cubes on here will give you victory points for covering up the different spaces. But more importantly, you can try to match the icons on multiple cards, because the later action, the publishing action, you will be removing those cubes to put them on the board to score lots of points and also to collect sets of things, whether it be cubes or the color of the cards that you're getting. So you want to try to get a lot of cards that have common icons on them to maximize your scoring potential. So the final action you can take is assigning your die to they call a reference card, which is any of your animals, but it's the one that you're probably going to be having the most cubes on in most cases, but it's really the one that's going to trigger all the scoring for all your other ones. In this case, we're using Heather's cards.
That was my reference card.
This was your reference. So she has it looks like kind of like an ostrich, I don't know what it is, or an emu. And it's got 4 cubes that were on it, and the different icons are a bird because that's the type of animal it is. It's an omnivore, it eats meat and leaves. It's a grasslands animal, and it's a animal that lives in a warm climate. So given that, in order to take this action, she needs a die, if she were playing, that has 6 pip counts worth to go to this, to trigger all 4 of these. She could go with a lower one, but you won't be able to trigger every one of these icons, and you're going to waste some of those cubes. So you don't want to go there without a lot of support for your dice. Now, let's say she had the 6 purple. 6 green, sorry, because it's a green card. So she plays the 6 green onto the card. Now she's going to remove the cubes starting from the farthest right, the most valuable one that she can pay for. And she's going to take the cube from that card, and then any of the other cards, regardless of color, that have the sun icon, she can remove a cube from. So all of those will get her 8 points, because each one of those cubes. The only thing is, every card that she removes a cube from, she's going to then lose that card at the end of the round.
If it doesn't match.
If it doesn't match the color. If it does match the color, she's going to have to bury that card, and those will count as scoring at the end of the game for any card you flip over. So you want to try to match the cards, the color ideally, but sometimes it's more valuable to get the cubes down if it's not a set you're trying to collect. That's how I ended up winning this game, because I had a bunch of cards I picked up that had perfect matches with the icons. So I got a whole bunch of cubes down on the board to score, sets of those, and then I just discarded the cards. I didn't need them. So then we move to the next level down, and that one's a grassland. So anything that's in the grasslands, we can take the cube off and put it on here. And she'll get 5 points for each cube she plays there. So a bunch of cubes for that one. Then it's the omnivore, so it goes here. So anything with whatever we call it, leaf stake?
Leaf stake.
Leaf stake. Place your cubes there, you'll get 3 points for each of those. So you should get a bunch of points for that. And then the final one is the bird. So any birds, she can take the cubes off.
Well, there were some during the game, but there aren't now.
So she would get 2 points for each of those. Then as a final scoring, every card that is the same color, the green cards that she removed cubes from, or even ones that she didn't, she will get to flip over if she chooses to do so. Now, if it doesn't have a cube, she isn't required to flip them over. But if it did have a cube that she removed, she's required. And she'll get 1 point for each of those cards now. But more importantly, at the end of the game, she's going to get a lot of points for collecting those sets. Now, these yellow and blue cards, because they're not green, will get discarded, and she won't get any points for those. So at the end of that, as a bonus, you get one of these red 5 pip tokens for doing the publish action.
Okay.
So that's basically all the actions you can do. You play 6 rounds of scoring of that, and at the end of the 6th round, we're going to take all these cubes that have accumulated here, and we're going to score each player for the number of sets that they have. They have to have at least 4 cubes in there, and you're going to score all those sets, and they increase in value from 3 for 4 all the way up to 40 for 12, and then even then beyond that, you can get 5 points per each additional cube.
Did anybody get those extra 5?
A few times. I think our first game I got like 13 or 14 in a set.
And then when you're scoring, you have these little cards that can help modify your in-game scoring. Like this one has a +2 in the grassland. So, like for instance, you would have added 2 cubes to that. at the end game.
And
there's several that are like that,
yeah.
different colors.
The trick with those cards, though, is you have to have them on top. Now, when you draft a card, you can take that card and you can put it on top, or you can bury it underneath. I like that. That's unique in a lot of the card draft, card acquisition games. Usually, you can't have the option of burying them. They will still count, because one of the things that's nice when you're counting your actual sets of the animals, if the expert matches the color of the animal, you'll get to add that to the set and count it. So you can score a lot of points, as I did this game, from the experts, because the experts have some of the in-game scoring on them as well. Not as many points, but you still get a bonus for them. And then you can also then use them to count towards that, which can really increase your score.
Yes.
Yep.
So in all, there's a lot of different scoring in this during the game and at the end of the game. Matter of fact, they give you tokens for, you had one that was like the base one was 0 and then 100. But they give you a second one, which is 200 and 300. And we're like, how are you going to score that many points? But I managed to almost get to the 300. So I think it's definitely doable.
Yeah, I mean, I was close last game. The first game, I was less than 10 off the 300 as well. But I do think there is a little bit of luck. I mean, with the card turn up and being able to get the cards that you need.
Yeah. These extra cubes on the publication came up right at the right time for me.
At
the very end.
Yeah, well, the first game we played, we got them like right at the beginning. We got a bunch of those.
They were useless.
Yeah, I was like, you don't want to carry them at the beginning because then you're not going to during the game bonuses if you just carry those and going to keep them. I mean, you can bury them, but then you lose the benefit of them.
Yeah, so there's that. So overall, I really, really liked this game. I liked it quite a bit. There's a lot going on, but yet it was fun. The 6 rounds just went by so fast. So I really enjoyed it.
Well, you say that. It's still a long game. I mean, it says 60 to 120 minutes. We played a lot longer than that.
Yeah, but it didn't feel like it.
It doesn't feel like because you're enjoying
like
it. Now, we do have a lot children we were taking care of and different things like that. So, and, of course, my team's playing fantasy football, so I was monitoring that, which didn't help. But I'm just saying there's a lot, a lot of actions you're taking, and it doesn't feel like the time that you're putting into it.
Well, I think the biggest thing is you're not waiting on somebody for horribly long, because sometimes you experience that in long games. It's just like, hurry it up. It wasn't so bad in this game. It was pretty fast paced. Overall, giving it a score, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I'm at 8.5 to 9.
I'm kind of surprised you're that low on it, because with Museum, I think you give it a 10. I like this way better than Museum, honestly. I like the engine building on it. You've got the set collection, but you've got a lot more actions to take on that. And I think it's going to be a fun, unique experience each time. I mean, granted, there's not a lot of variability in the gameplay. It's going to, once you get the basics of it, but the die rolls are going to make it variable. The tokens you get for the bonuses for each round.
Well, and the luck of the card draw. Like sometimes,
the luck of the card draw.
Like that first run, I drafted first, and I got 2 of the same. But then after that, I couldn't get really anything to connect.
Good replayability.
There's a lot of thinking.
Definitely,
there's a lot of thinking about, okay, what cards, because I mean, you're sitting there trying to collect, like I was collecting yellow, but I was looking at the set and I'm like, well, I've got a lot of snakes, and there's snakes out there that are blue and purple. Yeah, I'm going to throw them away, but I'm still going to be able to play those tokens to the board. So it was more beneficial. I let some yellows go to get the blues and purples because it was more beneficial for me to do it. And then as I started accumulating blue bonuses, I was like, well, might as well go for a second set of colors, because once you reach a certain threshold going on scoring, you get a diminishing return on your bonus. You're better off getting to that peak on another color if you can.
Yeah. So give it a score. I'm at a 9.
I hate to go 10, but I'm probably going to 9.5 on it. I really like the mechanics of this game, and I love the engine building. The fact that you can alter the engine along the way. So early game, you want to get those ongoing effects, but then as the game progresses, you can start turning them off and putting in the in-game scoring as long as you can get them in that order.
Right.
And the fact that you can choose to bury cards to still accumulate them to count towards your colors, I thought was a genius design.
I felt like I got lucky with my engine building this time, because every time I did something with the green, it gave me, every time I took an animal, I got 2 bonuses. I don't know. And then those end of game bonuses were helpful. Man, I like this game a lot. I don't think I've ever given any game a 9, but I'm giving this one a 9.
Awesome.
9, 9.5. That's fair.
Yeah.
But the theme really does it for me. I love museums. I love. I even like fiction about this kind of stuff. You know.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, this is all around. It was a great game, and if you were a fan, if you played the museums, the original ones, I think if you like heavier games, this is a heavier game than those museums. The museums are probably a light to medium game. This is definitely a solid medium, maybe even towards the heavy when you start considering the scoring on the publishing. But all in all, I think this is an excellent upgrade for like the next step if you're a fan of museum.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's good. It's absolutely good. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast today. Hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.